to the Roller Coaster Live. I am Lucie Q, host of the Roller Coaster podcast. Midlife. Sorry, it's been one of those days so far, and my cat behind me is decided to be quite needy, and he's needing all sorts. So anyways, my name is Lucie Q. I am a podcaster, journal author, and midlife mentor. And joining me, as always, on Tuesday is Holly Boxenhorn, who is a midlife transition coach and former therapist. And she is on a mission to help women over 40 to live their best lives. And we get together like this weekly to chat about all of the ups and downs of midlife so that we can normalize the chaos and bring a sense of calm to both our days and your day. Holly, it's been a few weeks, hasn't it?
It has been. I'm so glad to be back. I missed you.
Yeah. I missed our weekly chats. I took a bit of time. I was away for a week because my son was graduating and we had to move him back home. And then something was just telling me that I just needed to take a pause. I had a lot going on and, sort of ongoing health concerns. And, anytime that you're dealing with something like that, no matter how hard you try to keep in that positive mindset, there's a weight. Yeah. There's a weight on you while you're trying to figure everything out and understand what's going on. And, our healthcare system takes so long.
That's the most frustrating part.
Well, it is. It was 3 weeks for the biopsy.
Yeah.
And it was a uterine biopsy, which was, unless you've been through it, I'm going to say it's traumatic. It's extremely.
I've had a cervical biopsy, but I've never had a uterine.
Yeah. I was shocked. And it was in the morning. I basically came home and I curled up in a blanket for the rest of the day. And I just needed to feel safe.
Yeah.
And then while I was at that appointment, the doctor said, you have an enlarged uterus. You need to get an ultrasound. Okay, cool. I thought it would take like a couple of weeks. 4 months.
Oh, it's ridiculous. It's just so it's ridiculous.
When I got the letter saying, oh, your appointment is scheduled for such, I'm like, are you kidding me?
The same thing, I know you're in Canada, but the States, it's just as bad. My husband was experiencing severe headache pains. He has an issue with one of his eyes. He had for lack of better terminology, had an aneurysm to his eye, but it was feeling worse. So he consulted the ophthalmologist who said, you know what, I think it's time to see the neurologist. So when one consults a neurologist, don't you think it's important? Like you would think, it's important, right? Yeah, same thing. We can see you in 4 months. Oh, that's good. 4 months. So then at that point, whatever's going on will be what, it's
and that's the thing and you're left with, and I think it's the helplessness that causes it. It's because all you can do is, for better or for worse, talk to Dr. Google.
Which is often for worse, but yeah.
Sometimes you can find comfort and sometimes you go down a rabbit hole and you think, oh my God, I'm going to die tomorrow.
Right.
But I mean, there's no in between. There's no in between.
And it's you're feeling vulnerable as it is because you're not feeling up to par and you want to get at the bottom of this. And then unfortunately, the process only complicates it and make it that much more draining on us. I mean, it's a shame, it's emotionally and physically tasking. I mean, the physical is obvious because you're not feeling great, but it becomes this big emotional merry-go-round. Up and down.
It's like you have good days. And then by the time you by the time I got to, the day I had the biopsy, it was just like, whatever, let's just get this over with. Because you're just so tired of dealing with it.
Yeah. You want to get to the answers. You want to get to the bottom of it.
And you don't. Just more questions come up and you've got more weight. And it's just, I think I'm at the point where
have more results for you. So you really, literally, you can't get this bumped up until a couple of months, right?
I'm going to wait and see. I have my follow-up call tomorrow.
Okay.
Where I find out the results of the biopsy. And I mean, obviously, if they did find cancerous cells,
right,
it'll be a hysterectomy and that's it.
Right.
If not, there's more questions. It's a
Yeah.
big who knows. I've contemplated just saying, screw it. How long is the wait to have optional elective hysterectomy?
Yes.
Just
Yes.
to sort of stop
Yes.
any shenanigans.
Yes.
I'm like, can I get it? Will that happen before my ultrasound date comes up? Like what
It
is
might.
the time we're dealing with here? So and I think that's why with all of this going on, then, you're dealing with the, helping your adult child go through major life changes, moving back to a city. They have to find some place to live. They have to find a job. I think instinctively I knew I just needed a couple of weeks because I was going to have a lot. I just needed to have my own space. And that's why I sort of hit pause. But this is the first time I think that I've been able to hit pause without that guilt.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you. I think we almost at this stage of our life, and I don't want to be like a Debbie Downer at all, but I think we have to almost cushion that in a little bit in our lives, because there are going to be, or maybe I'm not going to speak for everyone, but trials and tribulations in midlife, but there are going to be times where our children really, do take a lot of our attention, our young adult children, because of whatever phase that they're going into, whether it's graduation, moving into an apartment, whatever might be happening, or it's our own health, or it's for my case, my mom, I was pretty much, I would say I was on pause, even though I was working with my clients and running my group. That was all I was doing, from, I would say, December through almost April, till my mother was finally settled in and I started getting sleep again, and I started coming up for air again and started feeling able to, re-engage. Again, I was working, but I wasn't taking on anything extra, and I knew I couldn't. I knew I didn't have the bandwidth. I knew I didn't have the bandwidth. So I wanted to be available and on for my clients, and take care of myself and take care of my mother at the same time. So I consciously chose to pull back on the other areas of my work.
Now, when you were doing that, did anything come up that you had to make a decision on to say yes or no to? And how did you sort of work through that process?
A lot of opportunities, work, collaborations. A lot of things. I mean, it's just the natural flow of my work where, I'm fortunate, to meet other people, whether they be coaches in my exact niche or out, and we do collaborations or we work together. I also am a part of a mastermind with other coaches where we try to, kind of support each other and up each other's game. I had to back out. I was honest. I said, I am doing what I need to be doing right now, which is keeping, my attention for my present clients. But right now I'm not taking on any new, and nor am I pursuing it. So even at that point, for us, part of the business rituals are, putting yourself out on social platforms. As much as I don't love that, it's, the case. I was doing bare minimum once, twice a week, if that. But I was very conscious. I knew I did not have the bandwidth for anything extra. I just didn't. And again, I've finally come up for air. Oh my God, and it feels really good. I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty brutal. But and so my intention this summer is actually to make up for lost time. Of course, I'm going to enjoy the summer and, as much as I can, but my intention is to roll up my sleeves and make up for lost time, because I really, wasn't able to put or develop much into my work, in the earlier part of the year. But the truth is that I'm very aware that another curveball can come my way, at any given time. And, whether it be my mother, my children, my own health, my husband's health, my dogs, as I ran them to the vet this morning because she ate what was it she ate? She ate a smoked ham hock. She grabbed a smoked ham hock. So diarrhea all night, up all night.
I was going to say, you can see, Oh
No,
no, he's disappeared
freaking
again.
out.
He's at yeah, he's having some needy moments. So he's wedged between me and my chair. I can
Yeah.
feel that's why I keep moving, is because he keeps pushing me while he gets more comfortable.
Yeah, I know. It's more
What we do.
comfortable. I
But
mean,
I
I came
mean,
very close to saying, "Hey, can we push this a half an hour later?" I wasn't sure I was going to make it home from the vet in time. I
oh
mean,
yeah,
I wasn't anticipating being up all night with a dog having diarrhea, and then I had to run her to the vet. That wasn't. I had to shuffle my day. So I mean, that's a small, obviously curveball.
but
But
it is those things that you're
yeah,
just like, they come up and you're just like, while they're happening or afterwards, you're just like, what the fuck? Like what
yeah.
what is this? What is this
Yeah.
shenanigans,
Well, I think that's why you said, I think at this point, I just kind of, and again, I'm not that I'm anticipating the shoe to drop, but just rather I lean into it. Like it's this life
It's going to
ebbs and
happen.
flows.
And I mean,
Right.
God knows the state of the world that we're living in.
Yeah, I mean, funny enough, we would go back to the your fire,
Yeah, our
wildfire,
fires
which then moved air, contagious
to
air
you guys.
to New
Yeah.
York. It was like a plague
You
here for
had it worse than we did in Canada.
it was orange. It was like the apocalypse was going
Mhm.
on. It was so bizarre. Everything just came to a grinding halt. There's some massive floods that are now happening in upstate New York and Vermont. Some serious damage, almost as bad as hurricane damage, just this past couple of days. Again, it's that we can't, control. And then there's, like you said, what's these shenanigans? It feels like, you got to be there with a catcher's mitt. I got this. I got that one. I got that one.
There's a line in one of our favorite Christmas movies, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. And I think Chevy Chase says something along, I don't think I'd be more surprised if I woke up with my head stapled to the carpet. And I think that's kind of the state that you get into in midlife, is that it's going to happen, something.
Yeah.
But you're, like you said, you're not waiting for it in fear, or you're not anxious about it. You just know it's going to happen. And because of all of the rituals and practices that we put into our life, we have the resiliency that we need to get through it.
But I could say that now. I have to be honest with you. I don't know if I could have said the same back in my 20s and 30s. Yes, I was resilient.
Oh God, no.
But I didn't have the wisdom to know that this is a natural part of life. I was also a control freak. I call myself a recovering control freak now. So I would want to try to, get ahead of everything. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I want to enjoy my life and a beautiful day and some levity. And I think that even in the chaos, you have to do that. You have to do that. You have to be able to do that. But I couldn't say that probably till, I really started, peeling back the layers my own self, and realizing, so is this what you want to do for the next half of your life? Is, just field all the discomfort, or you want to enjoy yourself along the way? And that's the sweet spot, but that's not an easy task. Many of us really don't have the skill set for that, because it's certainly not taught. It's not taught to us.
No, it's not. And, it's funny, just before we got on this chat today, I was texting with my oldest. He was just on his way back for a job interview. And he said, yeah, that one sucked. And I'm like, oh, okay, what happened? But, and again, this is, and I'm sure you found this with your own adult children, is once you accumulate this wisdom, you're sharing it with them, and that makes them wiser that much sooner. And he said, well, it's not actually a bad thing, because I realized that what I was trying to go after wasn't what I wanted, because I'm avoiding doing this. And he goes, and he described a situation when he was in flow, and he goes, I'm just going to find a job that pays my bills that I don't really have to pay any attention to, because I want to focus on those things that bring me to that state of flow.
That's very impressive.
And I'm like, dude, like, good for you. And I'm like, I'm jealous you learned that in your 20s, because I didn't learn that until my 40s.
A little pat on the back for that one, because he didn't just arrive at that. Obviously, you are a role model and sharing this. Yeah.
Our Leo, I always said from the day that kid was born, he's a wise soul. He's an old soul. He's an old soul. Yeah. And it was definitely an experience growing up as a mother, having him as your first. Lots gets mirrored to you. And there's a lot of, now that I can look back, there's a lot of, lessons that I learned you know, from being his mother. So yeah, it is interesting when you get to share those experiences with your children and see them become that much wiser that much sooner.
Yeah, it's funny because my post today was what frustrates you the most about midlife, and I share how, you know, having to take the back seat now and not being able, like, you know, to kiss the boo-boos for your kids anymore, and them having to go through their own growing pains. And it's very frustrating because it doesn't matter how much wisdom I impart or support, they have to learn, you know, they have to have those.
They have their journey.
Yeah, they do. So that's a tough thing to do. But I do have to say, I am really enjoying watching them become adults. And for someone who's like a former control freak, that's pretty impressive because, you know, I am really standing back and I'm able to kind of just be like, oh, you know, again, this is a blip. It's like a blip in time. Like we know like that was like, it's a microsecond, that interview that your son had. It will be nothing in his mind by for him and by the end of the day, but for many, you know, for years and years and years. But I think for us, I don't know. I didn't really learn those lessons when I was younger. I didn't have a mother who was aware of that. And I'm not really quite sure that was even really something that was put out there for us Gen Xers. I don't know if that was.
Well, no, it wasn't, because we were still in that environment of, you know, ticking the boxes.
Yeah.
The spiritual awakening that you see en masse today was the hippie culture back then.
Agreed.
That people were made fun of for.
Agreed.
You know, whereas now that sort of way of being is more normalized.
Yeah.
And you're seeing it expand.
Yeah. Yeah, like the pendulum is swinging the other direction. But I do agree. I mean, I think that, you know, we were just groomed coming out of the 70s, you know, feminism, women, you know, go do more, you can have it all. And we didn't really take care of ourselves. We were just achieving and going and achieving. And we did this for decades and we forgot ourselves along the lines, you know, just, you know, absorbing other people's standards and agendas and not really checking in with our own selves, you know, all well-intentioned, you know, maybe, you know, but it didn't turn out so well, because, you know, for many of us, you know, we arrived at this stage of our lives and we're like, I checked all the boxes, but, you know, why don't I, you know, feel that sense of fulfillment or completion in my life? And I think that's the other thing. We were spoon-fed that if you have X, Y, and Z, then you will arrive, alas, at happiness. And that's, you know, happiness is an inside job, not job. Yeah.
Tell me, were you raised by a stay-at-home mom?
No, my mother was initially going to be a stay-at-home mom, and then my father was in business, and actually the two of the men he was in business with ran away with all the money, like upended. So it was a bit of a crisis time when I was young. I was 5 and my mother had to go back to work. So I was like the latchkey kid. You know, I was the kid whose mom was working most of the time. You know, and I think she felt a lot of guilt about that. So she would try to make up in other ways, not necessarily the best ways. Like I needed her physical attention. Like, for example, I am dyslexic, and they didn't catch it until I was in the 2nd grade, which is pretty pathetic. You know, I mean,
actually they can't. My youngest has an extreme form of dyslexia. And I was told, he's 21 now. I was told when he was in kindergarten that something was wrong, but they said they can't test before grade 2.
Right.
Just because you sort of look at the potential reading level and what have you.
I was struggling enormously, but my mother really didn't know, because
it was just not a known thing.
After school and doing my homework or things along those lines. It was my struggle in it alone. So not until I got the resources, literally the resource room in 2nd grade, did I learn to start to manage my dyslexia. But it was still very challenging in grade school.
Oh God, yeah.
I finally kind of got it under control for high school. But I then, as a result, I became like a you know, a perfectionist. Like I felt like I had to do everything extra in order to be able to get the grades, and that just carried into adulthood with me. So yeah, so that's my bag of tricks. So that I
was just curious because I was raised by a stay-at-home mom, so I was raised to be of the mindset that women just stay at home and have
Yeah.
the kids and they keep the home and all of that. Yet what I was seeing in, say the sitcoms that we all grew up on watching is that women had careers and they had their families and they did all of that. So, I was in a difficult position because my mother, didn't understand. She never wanted to work. She just wanted to be a homemaker and that was her thing. Cool, no problem. But she just didn't know how to relate to anybody that wanted something else.
Right.
And then you have that position against, what we're taught with, the perfect mother with the career that, had her makeup on before breakfast and cooked a dinner and all of, and that really sort of, I didn't realize until later on how much that really sort of formed my perception
Totally.
of what we were supposed to be as women. And that goes down to checking all of those boxes because that mom on Family Ties, damn, she looked happy, and she had 4 kids and one of them was in her 40s when she was in her 40s when she had it. And you're like, oh, well, if that's what life is all about.
No, and no, nothing. That stuff wreaks havoc later in adulthood. Like, for me, it was the opposite. My mother was huge. I have 2 sisters, so there's 3 girls on like encouraging us to, be independent women and go for your career and college and almost at like over. So that, quite frankly, with my mother now just recently getting Alzheimer's, I have to admit in the beginning, there was a huge level of resentment because I was like, lady, you raised us to be independent, not to have to rely on you. You weren't really there for us. And now you're going to be, you need us for everything. This was not the deal. I was supposed to be able to go do my thing. My kids were going off to college. What happened here? And my mother was quite the independent woman up until I would say the age of 85, 86. And it wasn't until the last 3 years that she plummeted. So I had to really deal with a lot of like baggage upheaval because I was like, I remember in the beginning, I used to think to myself, I'm like, you're kidding me, right? Like, you're joking. Like, because it was just like, how did this happen? Like, how did suddenly she became so needy, so unable to care for herself? It was wild. So it really, that's what I'm saying. That stuff runs deep and it comes out at different stages of our lives, for sure. Yeah.
It does. And it's funny because I'm working through this program and they talk a lot about, the triggers and the triggers sort of reveal a block that you have and working through it all. And it is, those triggers come up and what you may think is the reason for the trigger, once you really get down into the deep, dark roots of it, you're like, well, shit.
So I agree. I mean, and this is what I've done for a living forever. I mean, I was a psychotherapist and then a coach. So yeah, you're very right about that. Like, let's get to the bottom of this, really, what's really going on. And that's why, I think quite frankly, if I probably, as I am now managing my mother's Alzheimer's quite well, before it was how it triggered me and what it brought, not only the resentment, but my fear of not being able to be in control. And that was something that I really needed because as I said, I'm a recovering control freak. So that really was a reckoning for me, as well as, the fear. I think there was such a huge fear about the impact of taking care of her, taking away from my ability to thrive in my career, to thrive as a parent with young adults, in my relationships. I was afraid that it was going to be all consuming because that's how it felt.
Like she was going to take away from your time to do these things.
Yeah. And that wasn't because in the beginning, when it all hit us, you're starting to see the consultants and the doctors, and then it's progressive and progressive and progressive. And not until really the last couple of months do we get her into assisted living, which has been the best thing we could have done for her ever. But leading up to that was tough, very tough. So that's why I finally can come up for air now. I couldn't sleep. I sleep now. It's unbelievable. I'm not worried about her, like, because she was alone. She was a widowed mother. My father died over 25 years ago. And she was on her own. And so it was just so scary for her to be by herself. We had an aide coming in and out, but that was just not enough after a while. So, and it moved fast. So I couldn't sleep. I would be so concerned about her. Yeah. Yeah.
So do you have any big plans for the summer then? Now that you've
No,
come up
my
for
big
air?
plan is I'm rolling up my sleeves and I'm getting
You're
busy,
just getting
busy,
down to
busy
business.
work-wise.
I
Yeah,
love it.
I'm looking forward to doing lives and podcast interviews and getting back into. I love this. This is what I love to do, and
Yeah.
I'm going to launch my midlife magic meetups again in the fall, and I'm going to do some of that, and I'm going to enjoy myself, of course. I'm getting some pickleball on.
Oh, are you one of the pickleballers?
I am. I'm heading there later. That's why I'm in this attire. I'm heading there later. Yeah.
Everyone's talking about pickleball. I'm like, I don't get it.
It's so funny. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And I'm not a competitive person. So it's just a lot of fun. And it's just great at the end of the day, after working all day, to just get together with a bunch of women and move my body a little bit and get away from the computer. Because, I'm behind the computer. So that feels good. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm more of because we live right at the end of our street it's a beach. It's about 4 kilometers. Yeah. So if I walk all the way to the end of the beach and back round, it's about 4 kilometers. So for me, if I can do that in the morning, that's my moving my body. That's my walking meditation. The beach is too. Yeah. The beach is like my place. And you also get that fabulous grounding because you can take your shoes off with your feet in the sand, walk in the waves. So it just
have to carve it out for ourselves.
Yeah.
I'm more diligent about that than ever. It's funny. My weekly email, it kind of relates to this in that I had actually taken a step back and done my 10-question toolkit that I have for anybody or everybody who wants to on my website. And one of the questions was, how have you changed in the last 5 years? And admittedly, I have to say, I just don't have the stamina like I used to.
Yeah.
I used to be like a rocket. I would drop my daughter off at a dance class, and then I'd have a couple of clients. I'd go food shopping, swing back and pick her up, it was incredible. Now I just want to go home and put my slippers on. Like, I just want to put my slippers on.
But it's like, I have to ask, is that actually a stamina thing or inner wisdom just saying, we don't have to do that anymore? We had to do it. When our kids were young, you had to you were up and you were getting them ready for school and you were going to work and, you were at 6 a.m, you were worrying about what's for dinner. And it was just like, go, 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 go. We have to do that.
I think both, Lucy, because I think definitely I don't have this stamina. And also the other part of it is, honestly, I don't feel the desire to prove anything to anyone or keep up with the Joneses anymore. Like, what price? So I think it is a combination of both. But I've learned, it's funny, in my email this week, I talk about how I've learned to manage that. And it was actually as a result of reading Darren Hardy's book, The Compound Effect. I think that's the name of it. And he's about optimizing the bookends of your day. The AM and PM of your day. And it was through him and reading that I realized in my morning, that's one of my best. So I do my most heavy load then, whether it be working out or it would be any heavy duty focused work for, like writing any content or blog posts or anything. And then I start to peter out, my clients, of course. And then I start to peter out around 3, but I used to grind. But now I feel like, you know what? I'm going for a walk with the dogs, or better yet, I'm taking a power nap. And I take a little chill, and then it replenishes me to keep going for the evening. And then I filter in a couple more clients in the evening, or I go out and I spend some quality time with friends and my husband or my children. And I can be there, not like, like a vegetable, tired, exhausted. But it was through actually doing that process of saying, oh, okay, so all right, let's honor who you are. How have you changed in the last 5 years? It's okay to rest and take it easy, but yet at the same time, for a person who was once an overachiever, feeling purposeful makes me feel best. So I needed to be able to honor feeling purposeful, but yet I wanted to honor my waning chutzpah. So to say, I wanted to honor the fact that I just want to kind of chill and smell the roses a little bit. So how can I honor both? And it was really through reading that I was like, you know what? I think there's something onto this. And that's why it's research-based. And lo and behold, I started, optimizing my bookends of the day. And it really helped tremendously. Yeah. Yeah. That's in this week's email. I thought, let me share this.
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
think really that's an element of self-care. Just tuning into what works best for you,
Yeah.
and optimizing the times when you have more energy, and going with the flow when your body dips and you want to be sort of
Yeah.
in a more relaxed state. Knowing how your body works and tuning into what you actually need, that's an important part of self-care, because you're doing what's best for you.
And I think, unfortunately, so many women, are still on go. Or even if they're
Yeah.
not on go, there's so much guilt that comes with, just taking a step back. So it's very hard to reconcile it. I mean, when I work with some women who are moving into retirement, and they say that's one of the hardest pieces, is that moving into always having every minute of the day occupied, to all of a sudden having these gaps and kind of almost being like twiddling their thumbs, like, I don't know what to do with myself, because they really have never even had the opportunity to even indulge in that. So
Well,
that's one of the hardest things
we're
they
made
talk
to
about.
think that if we're not going at 90 miles an hour, that we're being lazy.
Yeah, it's sad. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
It's a
think
sad
that,
state
and
of
that's
affairs.
just why women burn out, is because
Yeah.
we have all these things,
Yep.
and we feel guilty if we say no.
Yep.
And, saying yes to ourselves is considered selfish.
Yep.
And it's really not until many women hit that wall, hit that burnout point, that they're then forced
Yeah.
to have to step back and take care of themselves.
Yeah, that's exactly where you kind of want to get there before that even happens. I mean, we often, like I say, I think I've said this to you, often women don't come to me because everything is grand in their life. Usually there's something going on that they want to work out. But the truth is, my goal in working with me is that in the end, you can handle every curveball that comes your way. That's what my signature program affords people, is not only resolving what might be front and center, but then taking everything I shared with you, so then you can apply this to everything that's going to come your way, because the curveball
happen.
Yeah, it's inevitable. It's inevitable. Again,
It
sound like a Debbie Downer, but
no, it's not. I think it's just, you get to a point where you realize shit's going to happen.
Yeah.
That's what are you going to do with it?
Right, exactly. And to lean into that, just to kind of lean into that and have a tool belt, an arsenal of, tools to be able to lean into, so that you can then ride that out and get on the other side.
Yeah,
Wiser,
definitely.
and more resilient. Yeah.
Now, you've talked a lot about your signature program. So I want anyone that's listening or watching, make sure you go to Holly's website. I'm going to have all of her links in the show notes, because she's got some great quizzes and tools and resources to help anybody. Yeah. You can find out more about her signature program in there. As I said, that's all going to be in the show notes. Also, you can catch all full episodes of the Roller Coaster of Midlife podcast on all the major platforms, including Apple, Spotify, Google, Prime, all of them. And you can also head over to my website, therollercoasterpodcast.com, because I have another great resource for women, and that's 3 steps to go from hot mess to badass and start rocking midlife. It's a short audio program, and it's just enough to get you thinking about what you really want. It's based on my signature program called Why Formations. So check out our show notes. We're going to have all of the links in there, and make sure that you subscribe and hit like to this video. And if you can, share it with a friend, because there are a lot of women out there that need to hear conversations like this and help normalize the conversations around midlife. So until next week, have a fantastic day.
Bye, Lucie.
Thanks.
Bye.